Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in 24 hours. And just to be clear, I did not read all of these books in 24 hours. All the books that I'm mentioning are books that I read individually within a day. It would definitely be wild if I finished all of those books within a day, but that is not the case. This is actually a part 2 to a video that I uploaded back in the spring. So if you want to hear me talk about more books that I finished within a day, then definitely check out that video. I will have it linked below. So if you're looking for some quick reads, then this video is for you. I'm going to start off this video with the most recent book that I finished within a day, and that is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Before going into the synopsis, I do want to give content warnings for racism, homophobia, child abuse and neglect, bullying, and substance use. This story follows our main character Claudia, and her best friend Monday has gone missing. No one seems to know where Monday went, and also no one seems to really care. I will warn you that the story is dark. Going into this book, I knew that one of the characters has gone missing, and so that storyline really drove me to continue to flip the page and not want to put it down. The way the story is formatted, you get to see stuff that happened in the past before Monday has gone missing, and then you're back in the present day, which is after the fact. And because of the way that's written, you really get to know these two girls and you want to know what happened to Monday. And so this was definitely a story that I flew through. I honestly pretty much read this book in one sitting, and that is not something that I do very often. I also really love that the story kind of brings attention to the fact that when Black girls go missing, there's just silence. Their stories are not publicized, their stories aren't covered by media, but when it comes to white girls, their stories are all over the news. This story is inspired by real events, and so reading from Claudia's point of view, you kind of get a first-hand experience at the way missing Black girls are handled. A scene that really stuck out to me is when Claudia went to the police to report what happened to Monday, and the police pretty much just brushed it off as if it wasn't anything serious. But if Monday was white, I'm sure that the police would have cared a lot more. So even though this book is fictional and Monday is a fictional character, it touches on so many real issues, and I think it's a really important read that I just could not put down. The next book that I finished within a day is Warcross by Maurene, and this is definitely one of my favorites. This story follows a Chinese-American teenage hacker named Amika Chen, and it takes place in a world where there's this really well-known video game called Warcross, and it's basically a capture the flag type of game. So one day Amika is trying to hack herself into this game, but she messes up and she ends up glitching herself into the championship of Warcross. She thinks she's going to be arrested and get into a lot of trouble, but the creator of the game himself ends up approaching her and asking for help. And so the story kind of goes from there. I feel like I flew through this book because of how action-packed the story was. I really loved learning about the game Warcross and how it's played, and seeing all these different teams from different parts of the world come together to play this game and to compete against one another. It was just so fun to read. I thought the world was just incredibly unique, and I love the different types of representations in this book. We have characters from different sexualities and ethnicities. I also lived for the romance in the story. It was a bit slow burning at the beginning. The story definitely doesn't focus on the romance. The romance is definitely more on the sidelines, but that's how I personally like it. And it was just really fun to see these characters develop feelings for each other and get to know one another. This was a very fast-paced story, and you definitely will not want to put it down. The next book that I finished within 24 hours is The Way You Make Me Feel by Maurene. This story follows Clara, who gets in trouble at school and is punished to work at her father's food truck for the summer. Not only does she have to work at her father's food truck, but she has to do it with this girl named Rose that she really does not like. Overall, this was just a super fun, light, and fluffy contemporary. I love that it revolves around a food truck, and this food truck serves Korean Brazilian food, which I haven't had before, and reading it made me super hungry. Clara's parents are divorced, and I think that they have a very interesting family dynamic because her mom is like this really well-known influencer, but her dad just works at the food truck. Both of them are Korean, but they were born in Brazil and then immigrated to the US. And other than seeing the friendship between Rose and Clara develop, I really love seeing the father-daughter relationship between Clara and her dad. I thought it was just so incredibly heartwarming. I feel like Maurene always has the best father figures in her stories, and they're just so well written, and I love reading about those types of relationships because I feel like we don't get a lot of those in YA books. I feel like in most YA books, the parents are missing or they're dead or whatever. I just really love the way that the father is portrayed in the story, and overall it was just a really light and fun read. Another book that I finished within a day is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This is a YA horror novel, and it follows our main character Makani, and at her high school, students begin to die in a series of very gruesome murders. To be honest, I did not enjoy this book very much, but it was a really quick read. Even though people were constantly dying in very brutal ways, I felt like the story was very underwhelming, and I also didn't like the way that the killer was revealed. I remember that the killer was revealed very early on in the story, and I felt like from that point I pretty much stopped caring. So if you do plan on reading this, definitely be aware of all the graphic violence and death that occurs in the story. I did read somewhere that this story is going to be adapted, so I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I do want to watch it whenever that comes out. But personally, this book was just not a favorite read of mine. The next book I wanted to talk about is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This story follows our main character Justice, and he begins a journal where he writes letters to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One day, him and one of his friends go on a drive. They're playing really loud music and they encounter a police officer who is trying to tell them to turn it down. Words are exchanged. All of a sudden, the police officer shoots and kills Justice's friend. Despite this book being pretty short, it's about 224 pages, it's able to touch on so many different issues of racism and police brutality. It's a quick read, but it's intense, it's gut-wrenching, and it's incredible, and I feel like it's a must-read. So if you haven't picked this book up yet, I would definitely recommend it. And the last book that I wanted to mention in this video is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. I want to give a huge trigger warning for sexual assault for the story. This book follows our main character Mara, whose twin brother Owen rapes one of her closest friends. So she's confused, she's angry, and she just doesn't really know how to handle what happened. So the story kind of explores those types of feelings that she's experiencing. The story is honestly really heartbreaking and emotional, because how do you deal with the fact that someone you love hurt another person that you love? It's a very difficult situation, and it's hard to process those types of emotions. I could not put this book down, and I flew through it within a day. So those are all the books that I read within 24 hours. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye!